of the. Okay, Ms. Williams, we got 5:30. You're up.
Good evening, and welcome to the North Rock School Board Special Board Meeting and Workshop, where the very proud Superintendent, Dr. Gregory Pulaski, is the superintendent of this district. At this time, we are open for public comments. Public comments. At this time, before you approach, I would like to remind you that you will only have 3 minutes to speak. Also, you cannot use any reference of any employee in the North Rock School District because that deals with personnel. But you are free to express your concerns. Thank you. You may proceed, sir.
Hello, board. Thank y'all for allowing me here. I'm Richard Tatum. I think most of you know me by now. First and foremost, I wanted to address the issue of uniforms. I know there was some information collected from parents and teachers and things like that, and just wanted to add my voice to the public record. My family were adamantly against uniforms, not for the sake of identity or anything like that, but the idea of the financial burden that gets put on families. We are part of the 7th Street community. It's a lot of low-income families. Usually those kids require usually about 3 uniforms per kid, honestly, if based on how frequently people do laundry, things like that, and 3 uniforms per child. In my house, we would have 4 kids who this would apply to. That's 12 uniforms to start out with. That doesn't account for growth, for wear and tear throughout the year. So we are not on board with it, and we would ask, for consideration in that. Our family, maybe we might be able to financially swing it, possibly, but there are families who are financially less to do than we are, and I think that would put a financial burden on them. Also, I didn't see this anywhere, so I didn't know. Concerning the uniforms, if a child does not have a uniform, would there be a punishment levied for that? Does anybody know?
I would just say public comment is not an opportunity for a question and answer.
Okay.
But I'll be happy.
So can't ask questions. Got
At
it.
this time.
Okay, got it.
But you can stay through the board meeting.
Okay, I will.
Feel free to do that.
Okay, I will do. And then addressing the idea of hoodies, I know that there's been some issues concerning those. I'm kind of torn between the two worlds, but I've been looking over this and I've not seen that there was any distinction made between a hoodie and a jacket with a hood or a shirt with a hood. I have a son who wears just a regular shirt, but it has a hood on it. So if there's a definition for a hoodie, and if anything with the hood counts as a hoodie, then throughout the colder months, I'm concerned about how children are going to keep their heads warm. This would then put more financial burden on parents to buy hats that I guess the school would approve of, that the kid could actually wear to school. So again, those are things that should be taken into consideration when these kind of decisions are made. I'm not necessarily on principle against uniforms, just it's a financial burden that most people, especially in our school at 7th Street, probably would not be able to afford. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there other comments? Come right up.
Okay, hopefully they'll cooperate back there. I'm Allison Penrod. I came and spoke to you all a few weeks ago. Good evening, superintendent and board members. I would like to thank you all for listening to my concerns and going back to the table and making more surveys. That was very great, and I appreciate that. And I did note that at the last meeting, someone said that it was just, research could go either way and it was just a preference issue. So I would encourage you to go with the parents' preference since the overwhelming majority, 70%, voted against uniforms. So I would vote against the implementation of uniforms. Secondly, I previously emailed y'all a while ago when you were talking about doing the early release things. I am a very inquisitive person, so I knew from talking to y'all and from the Department of Education that y'all would be lengthening the days. However, it seems like a lot of the people didn't realize that was like a combo deal. So I have had a lot of people just being like, why are we lengthening days? So I didn't know if that was something that maybe y'all were going to clarify this evening. And finally, in the spirit of transparency and parent involvement, I wish that this meeting would have had more notice to the public. I like really check when the meetings are. I check pretty frequently. And the only reason I knew about this is because my friend that teaches at the school emailed me and said, hey, there's a board meeting tomorrow, and I would have completely missed it. And I'm not saying that y'all aren't following the guidelines of the open meeting policy. I'm not saying that, but maybe best practice would be like post it on social media or put it out there more so more people could be involved. I think we would have probably had a better parent turnout here tonight if there would have been more notice. So thank you.
Thank
and
you
I
for
will
your
be
comments.
watching the meeting, but not with them here. So
Okay.
I'll see you online.
Thank both of you for your comments. Are there other public comments? Are there other public comments? If not, I will officially call this meeting to order. At this time, Ms. Colquitt, would you please have the roll call of the board members?
Mrs. Williams,
Here.
Mrs. Wankham,
Here.
Dr. Radis.
Here.
Mrs. Temple, Mrs. McLean,
Here.
Ms. Person West, and Mr. Steele.
Thank you. At this time, we will have executive closed session. Executive closed sessions per North Little Rock Policy 1.14A, stating that private or closed discussion by the board may occur as part of a regular or special board meeting. Executive sessions may be held only for the purpose of considering employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, or the resignation of an employee, or to discuss matters of pupil punishment if requested by the parent or legal guardian. No resolution, agreement, or motion considered in the executive session shall be legally binding unless the board reconvenes in public and presents the item for vote of the membership. Further, Arkansas Code Title 25, Chapter 19, Section 106, C1 states, the specific purpose of the executive session shall be to be announced in public before going into executive session. Please join me in the executive closed session for discussion of the following matters: employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, or the resignation of an employee.
see here.
Dr. Pilecki?
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of our Board of Education, action item 5.1, employment of personnel. The superintendent recommends the employment of personnel as discussed in executive closed session.
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the employment of personnel.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded we accept employment of personnel. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, so the motion is carried. At the next item of action is the employment of the superintendent.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we extend the superintendent's contract through 2026 under the terms and conditions discussed in executive closed session.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded we accept the extension employment of the superintendent for 2026. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, so the motion is carried. At this time, we will have classified personnel title policy change. Mr. Smith?
Yes, Madam President, members of our Board of Education, if you remember, we had brought this before the board. We had brought this before the board as an information item. And I don't know if Mr. Smith has any kind of opening comments. Other than that, we'll just go to recommend the policy.
Sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Paluski, superintendents, members of our Board of Education, and President Williams. As Dr. Paluski said, we discussed the language of this policy as being prompted by the LEARNS Act on both the licensed and classified, and we had a presentation as an information item last time. Are there any questions of the board before they take action?
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the recommendation of the classified personnel name, title, or pronoun.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded we accept the personnel's recommendation of name title change. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, so the motion is carried. Thank you.
Ma-
Continue.
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the next action item is 5.4, licensed personnel, name, title, pronoun policy. Again, this is just the companion from license to policy. Are there any questions for Mr. Smith?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we accept the licensed personnel name, title, or pronoun policy that was
Second.
presented.
It has been moved and properly seconded we accept the title of name change from classified. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, the motion is carried. Thank you.
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the next action item is 5.5, which is the MOU with Horizons Day Treatment. And I do believe Mr. Logan is here. Remember, our day treatment program, some of our students that have very severe needs that cannot be met in the regular education environment. So we do contract with Horizons in order to meet their individual needs. Mr. Logan, would you like to provide any overview, sir?
There is a letter in your packet from Mr. Marlowe, who runs that program. In essence, the price increase, there's quite a bit of cost affiliated with that building. It's a little bit older, so there's quite substantial cost there for them to operate the program. Everybody that's participating, Little Rock, North Little Rock, Pulaski County, Jacksonville, there are a couple others that participate in the program, are all receiving the same price increase for those services. I would say this is particularly important to us because we currently don't have any other options. A lot of the facilities like Pinnacle Point and other places have set some pretty strict boundaries in regards to students that they will take. So Horizons is definitely our best option right now. Not a huge fan of the price increase, but it is definitely necessary. And I'll take any questions. I'll try to answer them as best I can in regards to the information that I have.
How many beds are we holding?
50 seats.
Okay, so that's a
Not
pricing.
bed, and it's day treatment, so it's not.
How many chairs are we
Yeah,
holding?
50. We currently agree to 50 seats that are prepaid. I think we close the school year with 48 of those 50 filled.
Okay. So it's a price increase of $980 per student per chair. That's the
Yes.
increase. Very good.
Do we try to negotiate?
Yeah, there's not any negotiating. We talked about this, which we've delayed it as best we can to get an understanding for why the price increase was necessary, but harsh reality is we have no other option.
Okay. Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the MOU of the Horizons Day treatment.
Second.
It has been moved to proper second that we accept the recommendation from Mr. Logan concerning day treatment program at Horizon. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, so the motion is carried. Next item, please.
Thank you, Madam President, members of our Board of Education. The next action item is 5.6, school uniforms and our hoodie policy, and I think that Mr. Logan is going to pull up his presentation, but I just want to preface this by saying, and I know there's a lot of data in here that you asked for. The community asked for us to take a pause. The community asked for us for more input. The board asked us to take a pause for more input. And so what you see is a collection here of data. I'm very proud to say that we had just about 2,500 parents take our survey over a 15-day period. That's a pretty good response rate, in my opinion. We have 1,200, roughly maybe 1,600 employees. 744 of those took the survey as well. And I think that's good. I think that's a great participation. We also added a comment section. And that comment section, as you can imagine, when you look at the comments, really reflects what the data reflects. And obviously, what we see when we look at all this data is overwhelmingly, as a school district, our parents are not in support of school uniforms, period. What we also see from the data, depending on the campus, some employees are in favor of school uniforms, and not in, if you want to specifically go into a specific school, we can do that. The same thing on the hoodie side as well. Overwhelmingly, parents, responded by saying, we're okay with that. And so as you begin to have a debate and a conversation, I would just like to recommend as a superintendent that at this time, based upon the overwhelming response from our community, that there is no change in the dress code policy going forward at this point in time.
Okay, Mr. Steele.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Superintendent. I don't have a question, but really just want to say that I'm really appreciative of everybody who participated, regardless of what side you were on and what you thought. I did think that 2,500 that's a pretty good number, pretty good. We call it sampling when you're doing polling, but that's a pretty good number. And I want to just thank all the people, especially those who actually came down and even reached out to us as board members personally to let us know how you feel and let people know we do listen, and that is very important. And you can call us, you can contact us in a multiplicity of ways. So I would encourage you to continue to do that as we go through these major decisions.
Ms. McLean?
I could just say ditto to that, because we did have a lot of parents respond, and that was wonderful. And they were speaking loudly, telling us that they did not want any changes. And I did get a lot of emails, and I encourage them to continue to do that also, because they can contact us with the things that they have concerns about.
Ms. Welcome?
Do we want to clarify what the difference of the hoodie versus the jacket with the hood, just for educational purposes for our audience?
And I'll refer that to certainly.
Isn't that on the, we're making that public, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
That's public, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I think we're good, unless you.
Yeah, I mean,
we need
really,
to have
the
discussion.
recommendation here now is no change to the dress code policy, meaning no school uniforms. Kids can wear hoodies. You just can't put them on during the academic day. That still is part of our policy, is part of our rule. And we will work with our administrators to support them in making sure to our parents that they know to have this conversation with your child, that, and part of that is a safety and security issue like we talked about. When things that happen at school and kids put their hoodie on, they can't be identified. But again, the recommendation is kind of status quo on the dress code policy, but that still goes into effect.
Very good.
Dr. Reddish?
Hoodies and hats
Correct. No hats. No hats. as well.
Do-rags, bonnets,
across the board, K through
nothing
12,
on your head.
Read the policy. Parents need a parent.
regardless to what campus you're on.
Administrators need a,
No hoodies on head, and that there will be consequences if you do. No matter, that's just my I just want to make sure that it's out there that although we're going to support the superintendent's recommendation, we just want to make sure that there's still a policy, a procedure,
Yes.
a rule, whatever you want to call it, that just because you have the hoodie on doesn't mean you can wear it over your head.
Correct.
And no hats, no matter what campus. And I just wanted to put my little plug in that, yes, I'm going to support the superintendent's recommendation. However, if I personally put my feelings into it, it would be K-12 uniforms. But I ask to hear from the public and the community, and it happened overwhelmingly, and so I'm going to go with the public.
Mrs. Temple?
I really don't have anything to add. I'm appreciative of everybody making their voice heard.
Ms. West?
I appreciate the better response this time. And I will support the superintendent in his decision. But I am also a big proponent of decency and order. And I would definitely support whatever consequence, if a child or a student decides not to follow the guidelines listed or laid before them. Me personally, I would like to see a K through 8 uniform policy. And just to be crystal clear, a hooded sweatshirt has nothing to do with not wanting a kid to wear a coat in the wintertime. We're not heartless people. We're parents, too. And some of them, not me, are grandparents. And, we never would want a child out there in the freezing cold or rain or anything like that. But we just have to be very mindful that we have policies and procedures in place for a reason, and we have to follow those. And this is teaching children in life, wherever you go, you're going to have policies and procedures, and you're going to have rules, and you're going to eventually have to follow them, because we're going to, as a person, going to be from under the auspices of our parents. And we have to learn what it is to make those decisions on our own as people.
Thank you. And would like to say to you and to the superintendent, first to the parents, we want to thank you. You are the stakeholders in North Rock School District. And you overwhelmingly said what you wanted. And as a board, we support you because you are supporting us by keeping your children in the North Rock School District. And again, the only statement I have about the hoodies, they're fine. I know it's cold. They have to stand on the bus, but when they get ready to go into the building, just put in your policy to do that. We do have policies where you say you can't wear beanies, you can't wear hats, and hoodies are not. But this is a new day. People will listen better because the board is supportive of all the parents in this district. But there are still rules. And parents, I think Dr. Reddish was going to expound on that, and she did because as a superintendent. Senior high school students come through the door with a hoodie over their head and with ID around here. You don't know who they are. So that's why no hoodies in school, and it could be very dangerous for anybody in the building. So again, if you get those items down pat, what are the consequences of wearing a hoodie in the building? Then you can bring that back to the board, and we'll see if it's too strenuous or if it's fair and equitable. And I certainly thank you, Mr. Logan. And at this time, we will have to put it through a motion.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, I move that we keep the school uniform and hoodie policy
as is.
as is.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we keep the school policy as is on the dress code. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You want to do a roll call? Okay.
No, I'm good.
All right. All right. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So the motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, members of our board.
And
Madam,
it's-
To adjourn
Madam President, I so move that we adjourn
for into
Second.
workshop.
To go to workshop.
to go to
Okay,
workshop.
it's been moved
I
and
do have
properly
one,
second that
one
we-
comment before
Okay.
I just think that all our positions, especially of leadership, are very important. But for the public, as you did for us, could, Mr. Superintendent, could you just kind of update our community on where we are with our football coach?
Sure, Mr. Steele. I think as many of the public know that our longtime employee, Coach Randy Sandifer, is moving on to do some great things at the city. So we just learned of that last week. We have posted that position today, so we are accepting candidates for that position. In fact, Dr. Hooper is going to be meeting with the coaches tomorrow to get some input about characteristics of a new head coach, as well as characteristics and leadership qualities they want to see in an athletic director. Do believe that we have spoken with Coach Clint Reed, will be the point of contact, not interim, but point of contact, so kids can keep playing football until we name a new head coach.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And would you tell them that tomorrow's the first day of practice and things will roll on as should, please, in football practice?
It is business as usual.
Okay.
Let's go.
Thank you. We did have parents calling about the concerns. So business as usual. We do have someone in place, as Dr. Pulaski Ford stated. So without no further ado, we had a motion and it was second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. We're officially adjourned to go into
Workshop.
workshop.
Excellent.
Thank you, Channel 11, for coming.
Ain't nothing to see here.
Madam President and members of our Board of Education, our first item is 2022-2023 instructional minutes and school start and end times, and I welcome our colleagues from the Office of School Performance, Mrs. Amy Jordan, Executive Director of Secondary School Performance, and her colleague, Miss Tracy Lightfoot, Executive Director of Elementary School Performance. And we just wanted to give you an overview. If you recall, our community supported a new calendar with early release days every Wednesday. In order to do that, we had to have enough instructional minutes to meet the state requirement, so we knew we were going to have to make some adjustments, specifically at elementary. We were going to have to add, this is a good thing, that we're adding more instructional minutes. And so what they're just going to provide an overview, and what we're recommending is some new start and end times and some adjustments to our instructional time period, so all of our parents know how much the literacy block is going to be, how many minutes in middle school, how many in high school.
Good evening. Good evening, our esteemed President, Board President, and our esteemed Board, and Dr. Pulaski. Our purpose today is to inform the Board regarding the revised instructional minutes and the start and end times for the 23-24 school year. This is our draft of our school calendar for the upcoming 23-24 school year. And as you see that we have indicated here on the Wednesdays, there are the early release days that are in orange.
So just as a reminder, in order to have an instructional day, you have to have 360 minutes. If we do the early release model, we need 380 minutes on those 5-day weeks. So those 20 minutes times 5 days gives you 100 minutes. So those early release Wednesdays, I'm going to go back one slide. You'll notice that's not every single Wednesday. It's the Wednesdays of weeks we have 5 days. So if we have a Monday off, for holiday, there's not an early release on that week. So just to clarify that piece, and that's where those minutes come from. We're also doing this in regard to our professional learning communities. We had an entire presentation on that for you earlier in the school year. And this is how we're going to be using that time. Those minutes that we're releasing students will be to provide professional learning communities to our teachers, staffs, administrators, and we'll have more on that as we go into the summer, as that will be something that we delineate what those look like each week.
For the daily pre-kindergarten instructional minutes, there are no proposed changes moving forward.
Okay.
For our daily elementary instructional minutes, there is a change. From our current instructional minute, we have 75 minutes in mathematics. That will increase to 90 minutes. And our science social studies time from 25 minutes to 30. So that's adding 20 minutes on to 380 minutes for the instructional block in elementary schools.
At the secondary levels, we are able to manipulate inside the periods and inside the day a little bit differently. Secondary didn't need quite as many minutes added to their day in order to reach 380. So you'll see some minor changes here. We've put those in bold for you just to draw your attention to where those minutes would be coming from to reach that threshold of 380. So at 6th grade, that goes into first period. At 7th and 8th grade, that also goes into first period. At the high school, that extends those block periods. I will tell you that on the secondary level, as long as we keep the beginning and end matching those instructional minutes, these insides could modify if needed, if they needed to close exchanges and make those shorter or do something like that. So we do have flexibility as long as we're meeting that goal of 380 minutes in the school day.
So with the revision of the school start and end times, this is what the proposal looks like. We will go from a start time in elementary schools from 7:50. School will start next year at 7:45, and then we'll end at 3 p.m.
Middle schools, again, the adjustment is a little bit less. So keeping the same start time, but backing up dismissal by 5 minutes to 3:30. And then at the high school levels for COE and the North Little Rock High School, that would go from 8:30. The start time would change to 8:30 from 8:40 and then extend into 4 o'clock.
And I just want to say, we do want to thank Ms. Coleman and Mr. Logan, because this is all contingent on making sure we have a 3-tiered bus system that we can make sure that we're getting between elementary to middle school to high school. So we do thank their leadership for the support of making sure that we can add these instructional minutes but get kids to school, homeschool effectively.
Thank you for that acknowledgement, Dr. Paluski, because it is a balance when we want to ensure the integrity of instructional time for students and then the operations as far as safety is concerned.
And then here you would see the change between a regular school days bells and the times, beginning and end times, and the early release Wednesday, which is in green. So you'll see that if you look between those two slides. So a 3 p.m. dismissal would change to 1:20. So that's that 100-minute difference. The 3:30 would become 1:50, and the 4 o'clock would be 2:20. So those would be on those early Wednesday early dismissals. We are ready to take questions if you have them.
Questions? Ms. West?
If everybody would speak up, I've got emails, people cannot hear you all, so if you please speak into your mic so they can hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you, Doctor. Ms. West?
Yeah, I was wanting to ask, and I kind of made some notes here as far as the elementary students that may have to ride I guess this may be more for Ms. Coleman. Maybe y'all can help me out. But as far as the students that maybe have to leave, they ride a certain bus, and will that allow enough time for them to dismiss as far as maybe the students that are, I guess, contained, or with, they have to go from the elementary school, like maybe to the junior high or the high school to pick up that group there? How does that work? Or would it be a special dismissal for them?
Ms. Coleman,
I'm not sure that I understand.
Well, I think it's a bus that leaves from elementary school that, maybe they're wheelchair bound or something like that, and then they have. They have to
sorry.
go from the
Oh, sure.
elementary maybe to a junior high school, or will that affect the time frames at all? Will they be able to
No, we
still?
still, absolutely. With our
Okay.
special needs buses, that's,
Okay, I wanted to make sure of that, and then, would this affect anything as far as like the teacher prep time, or is this something that they've already, we talked about this already at the
we
beginning
did,
for
if
the
you remember the slide
schedule,
before,
yeah.
we laid out how many instructional minutes
Mhm.
are required, and then how we're increasing the number of instructional minutes. So they'll still get individual planning time that they're required by
Okay.
law to have, and then we're increasing that collaborative time 100 minutes every single week to add even more, because we know there's a direct correlation between being properly planned and executing the implementation of instruction.
So that's just what I want to make sure. We will go make sure they had their planning times and
Yep.
make sure that the kids, you know, that have to ride a certain bus, they can get to. Oh, okay, and everybody go
Transition
get picked up.
times is what you consider
Gotcha, yeah.
transition, and
Right.
that
Okay.
has been considered in building those minutes.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Ms. Temple,
No questions, very thorough. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Dr. Redditz?
No questions.
Ms. Walker?
Nope, I'm good. I was concerned about the transportation, but you ladies hit it. Dr. P mentioned it, so I'm all set.
I love the way you laid this out, just on the left side, the current, and then the proposed over there, and a bold print so we could see what the change is. Nice and easy. And Mr. Logan, I really loved your PowerPoint also. Thank you. You put all that info there very clearly, and I didn't say that to you earlier.
He did it himself.
Mr. Barnes.
Good report. I just wanted to make mention. I can't remember. I'm sitting here trying to think. I can't remember what news show I saw this on. Just as an idea, not a reason to spend any money that we don't have. But they actually had videos on the bus. And they would actually start instruction. I think it was elementary school only. Actually start instruction, general things, announcements and so forth. A message from the principal. Did you see that?
No, but I know
Principal
what
or
you,
the
I've seen something like
superintendent?
that. Mhm.
That's
And-
a that's a
yeah,
that's a
and it
really
kind
good
of
idea.
got
I've
their
not seen it.
attention, so they wouldn't be involved in other
Actually,
things.
it's a really good idea.
It is an
And-
interesting idea to pursue. Actually,
I'll try to find out. I don't know if it's Good Morning America, but one of the news shows.
Utilize that
That'll
time.
be a little additional.
Hey, some two-digit numbers. I mean, we can, whip some instruction in there. Sure.
Yeah.
See, in Arkansas, those children that have to go over 30 miles, they have instructions on those buses, so that keeps them busy. So when they get to school, there are things already planned for them. And I don't know
That's a
what
good-
cities these are, but it is in Arkansas. Some kids have to ride at least 30 miles to
They do.
get to school. Thank you very much. Okay.
And they'll have Wi-Fi on those buses as well. But I think it's a great idea, Mr. Steele, that we should look into of utilizing that time. I
Yes.
think
Good idea. Thank you,
I-
Dr. Steele, coming up with a
I
point.
can't take credit for it. I was just watching TV.
Let's piggyback off of what Mr. Steele just said.
everybody got that.
If that's the case, can we start holding graduation here within our own campus and save some big money there on secondary places for graduation? Because, we can use those pennies that we save and keep within at the high school, whether it's the arena or the $1 million football stadium that we built, and we can save that money and put towards Mr. Steele's idea of the cameras and TVs on the buses, so we can educate our children and tell them to take their hoodies off before they get into the school building. Just a thought.
Well, I guess,
I'd be all for it.
thank you, Mr. Steele.
And their
for
bonnets.
riding on Good Morning America's idea. But, and then she has come up with another idea, Dr. Paluski, and it's sort of like the 8th grade campus. You could have, since we got 400 and some students, you could have A section and A through W.
Whoever,
and then
whatever.
that kind of think of maybe in the future, because North Rock is landlocked. We have nowhere to go. And
So-
the only largest place we have in North Rock is the auditorium, is the field, the football field. And we don't want the children outside because the storm heat. So I don't know what we need to do, but
So
if
we-
they
we
will
will-
come, a day will come. We got to go somewhere, but good ideas. And Dr. Paluska will be thinking about this in the future.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought
Add
Just-
that to the list.
Just a question here. I want to get some direction from the board. This is an information item. My thinking around this was not an action item because you had approved the school calendar, which approved the early release days, which forced us into, we had to make some adjustments. If you want to have this as an action item, we'll bring it to you next week to formally approve. I don't think it needs to be approved, but I'll take my direction from the board. If you just want it to come back and we'll approve it next week as an action item, I'll be happy to do that.
For transparency, I would say let's bring it
Okay.
an action item,
We'll-
just for transparency.
Sure, we'll bring it back next week as a quick action item to approve the instructional minutes and start and end times for the 23-24 school year.
Okay, very good report. Are there other comments, board members? Thank you. None other? Very good
Thank
report,
you.
and thank
Okay,
you all
thank you.
both.
Thank you. Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the next action item, and I will call my colleague, Mr. Brown, to our Chief Financial Officer, and Mr. Jenkins, if you would like to come forward, sir. If you remember, well over a month ago, we had an issue at the annex in which we had a sewer line break, and I had walked that building, and I was public about it. And I immediately, once I saw that, said, we're not going to put those employees. Our technology department has not been in the basement of the annex. And at that point, I made the recommendation that it is long overdue to look for a piece of property for our annex building. I know we're going on a tour tomorrow, but our employees there, I just want to advocate for them that they've been in that building a long time. It's well past it's due. And so we've asked Mr. Brown, with Mr. Jenkins' help, to look for property in North Little Rock that could meet that need. And so what we're going to present to you this evening is some background on the buildings that we do have and what our options are to relocate some of our staff to a much better working environment. So, Mr. Brown, I will turn it over to you and Mr. Jenkins.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Paluski and members of the board. So in your packet, you have a presentation where we're going to talk about the status of the annex, which Dr. Paluski has already alluded to, and then we have additional properties that are, within the ownership of the district that are not conducive to being used as office facilities. So I'm going to, so as Dr. Paluski had alluded to, the administrative annex, it's just over the years has, been in a constant state of disrepair. And we've been limping along for a very long time in that building. And we've had sewer issues on all floors. We've actually have a sewer flooded the basement, has happened twice this year, and that's been a result of disintegrating main sewer pipes that are in the ground. So, and we discovered that when the contractor came out to look and locate the issues, look for and locate the issues with the sewer, and they discovered the disintegrating pipes that are underground. There's also electrical issues in the building and also HVAC issues, and that's just trouble cooling the building. There's lots of windows in that building. There's lots of cracks and crevices in an old building that, just in the hot times, in the hot season, it's hard to cool. In the cool season, you have heat that escapes the building. So it's just no longer an airtight building and is not conducive. And so, as Dr. Paluski had mentioned, we have moved some personnel out of that building, especially on the basement level where the flooding has occurred. And I know technology is in the process of trying to orchestrate moving the core, which is actually located in the basement of the building, the core of our network. That's not something that can happen overnight. It's not something that can happen over a weekend or even over a month. It's going to take probably a year to actually orchestrate the move of that core. So it's something that's in the planning phase and underway. But as you can see from the pictures, these are pictures from the basement level. These are areas that makeshift pipe you see in the third picture is what the contractor has done to reroute piping to a manhole that exists on I think it's the north side of that building to bypass the main disintegrating line. So that's a temporary fix for the building, and you know, under the circumstances to keep the building operational, that's what we had to do. So we made a decision, and Dr. Paluski made that decision this spring that staff could no longer work in the basement level of the annex, and he also asked me to work with Adam on trying to locate a facility that we could rent, lease, or buy that would accommodate the employees that are located in the annex that need to be relocated, but also would accommodate other staffing needs, such as our coordinators that are located at 7th Street that need to be brought into a working facility so that space can be released for school purposes in 7th Street. So we begin looking at alternate locations, and I'm just going to go through the buildings that we have. I know you have a tour that's scheduled tomorrow, but in Old Main, that building has not been renovated. You know, the current plan is for that to be renovated in the future for instructional purposes. And if we renovate it for instructional purposes, we can seek state partnership funds to help assist with that cost. State partnership funding is not available for administrative buildings. So we also have the old sophomore campus. I would say that one is in the worst shape of all. Since we have opened the high school, we have made every attempt to lock, secure, and keep people out of the sophomore campus. We have locked the buildings. We have put plywood over all first level windows. We have chained the doors. We have actually welded the doors shut. They have brought grinders in and cut welds to go in and steal items from, and I'll show you the photos. This is, you know, the ceiling. All of this is vandalism. People looking for copper in the building, and it's just a situation where it's just, and you'll see there's flooding down in the basement level. The first picture there, that flooding has occurred, and you can see electrical boxes have been raided, air conditioning boxes have been raided. So the building is not inhabitable. It's really needs to be a focus of us getting rid of that building and tearing it down. I would say we need to wait and coordinate that with the annex once the core is moved, and we could get that all taken care of at one time, and be most cost-effective way of doing that. The Octagon building that's been transferred to us, the old police administration building, that's being, some updates are just being done on the inside, some painting and cleaning, and the outside has been cleaned. So that's going to hold 12 to 15 people in that particular structure. And then the police and courts building, it's not inhabitable. Actually, the city still has some core equipment, core network equipment that's in that building. We're working on getting the official transfer of that property completed. But that part of the building needs a renovation. Part of it needs a demolition, because, you know, the old jail cells are not anything that we need. And there's so.
No, I just want to say, Mr. Brown, if I'm not mistaken, when we had that cold spell in December, there were a few pipes that busted in the police and courts building that did cause flooding and potentially mold.
Yes.
In December.
Yes.
Did they give us a bad building?
Okay.
So, what I'm here to say is we have an option available to us. Obviously it would take more than what you're going to see here. Is we have an option at 1.9 million that is the most affordable option that we have on the table. We could not renovate any of the properties that we currently own with 1.9 million to get that ready for staff. All the properties would take more investment than what we are going to look at here with you. So there is a property that we've located. It's at 3201 Highway 161. And then in this property, we have the ability to house approximately 50 employees. And just in our assessment, we're looking at like 3 people from the central office, 12 in the curriculum department, 10 in technology, and 25 in special services. The building has the capacity to house those. It is move-in ready. And the asking price on the property is $1.9 million. We have made an offer of $1.4 cash price and a $500,000 charitable donation for tax purposes for the seller, for us. Just on preliminary grounds, that offer has been accepted, and we've signed an LOI that has a contingency on board approval. We also have a contract that on the property that we would like to get Dr. Paluski to sign tomorrow that would kind of lock us in on that, but there's also a contingency in there for board approval. So our signed LOI, signed contract, all of that depends on your final approval, which if all the criteria materializes in the LOI and the contract, then we would bring to you for your final vote to close on the property and authorize Dr. Paluski to sign for ownership of the building.
Explain what a LOI is, please.
It's a letter of intent. So it gets us to a kind of business points where we can negotiate and go to a contract instead of just going back and forth on a contract. So that's been done. And as far as where we are today, with the contingencies, you have 90 days with an option of an additional 30 days to get us to a point where the district is comfortable going to the next step and saying, yes, let's remove contingencies and let's move forward on closing on the property. So right now we have pretty much 90 plus 30 for our due diligence wise, which is environmental, zoning, feasibility, building inspection, what have you.
Okay, thank you.
Who's back there, Hunter? Mr. Nannon, can you click on the property brochure link there?
Here it is.
Okay, and this you'll see is a property brochure for the 3201 Highway 161, and on the second page there, just want to point out the building size is 13,478 square feet. It lies on 1.95 acres. It's zoned an I-2, but
Yeah, we'll have to get conditional use on it, which is probably not going to be a problem. I've already reached out to the city on that. If it was zone I-1, there wouldn't be a problem, but we'll keep it I-2 and just do a conditional use. And once we get it under contract, then we'll start the process with that.
The property was originally built in 1970, was renovated in 2016. I believe it was originally the Wynn Rockefeller International office headquarters there, and then it was purchased by the technology group that currently owns it. They renovated it in 2016. And you'll see it has roughly 60 surface parking spaces, and parking has sufficient parking. It's located at the Prothrow Junction exit, and you turn north and go right past the first business there on the left is the J.B. Hunt Trucking Distribution Center, and then the second business is the property that we're discussing. Can you scroll to the third page? And there's some pictures of the inside. You can see it's been recently renovated. The contents are in our letter of intent. We ask that the contents be conveyed to us. That has been agreed to. And then, am I leaving out anything?
Is
Okay.
the outbuilding?
We're going to negotiate that as well once into a lease and that, and then we'll have some, once we get under contract, the seller will provide within 5 business days of all the pertinent information regarding any leases, any information on the building, the content, and probably the lease. So we'll look at that and make sure it's all acceptable to the board at that time.
But it does convey.
That's correct, 100% correct. Yes, ma'am.
The outer building does convey
Correct.
To us. Originally, the owner was interested maybe in taking that out, carving it out, but if we would agree to short-term lease on that building, he would convey. So that's what we've agreed to because it would end up being of value to us.
Yes,
So.
we need that.
And that is conditioned space, heated and cooled.
Perfect.
Okay, and you can scroll to the next page, and these are just images on the inside of the property. That's of the second floor. Scroll to the next page. This is a floor plan of both the first floor on the left and second floor on the right, and there are over 50 workspaces here, so it will accommodate, and there are 2 meeting rooms there that are set up and have meeting conference tables and chairs and in those areas. And I think scroll to the next page. That's the image of the property, so you'll see.
So 2 structures, the main building, which is 13,478, and the 2,400 square foot warehouse, encapsulated in 1.95 acres.
And I want to make sure that I am looking at this correctly. Those are like light poles, am I saying that correctly, that maybe will give some visual, some light out there on the parking lot? Like right there in the front, on the sides, is that what that is? For anybody that's working late or when it, start gets dark or whatever? And that's out there by that white truck, is that a light pole too?
Yeah, I think there's a light pole there, and I think
Okay.
there may be one out front too. And again, you guys may have to, during your inspection or feasibility of the property, look into that and see if it.
Make sure they come on and all that
Exactly.
stuff, make
Or
sure the bulbs work.
maybe add more
Okay.
to it.
We want to make sure that
Yes.
our employees are safe
Yes, ma'am.
and don't have Mickeys running around.
Yes, ma'am.
We had talked about an elevator.
That's something we would have to look at. We'll just have to look at that and see if it's feasible or not. There may be an option there, or capabilities there, taking one of the stairwells and making that into an elevator. There are 2 stairwells for the property. There's one in the back and one in the front. So there may be the option there. We'll just have to look and see about that.
Mr. Steele?
So the process, Mr. Superintendent, is we'll look at this since they've accepted the offer. When
Yeah.
will we vote on?
Well, yep. So, Mr. Brown, let's go to that slide, Mr. Brown. Yes. What
Mr. Nanan, you can exit this PDF and go back to the slide.
With your permission, that I'll sign tonight just basically locks us in. Again, nothing is going to be official until the board approves any of it. But one of the things in the process that Mr. Brown is going to outline is that although this property is in the North Little Rock city limits, it is not in the North Little Rock School Board zone. So one of the things that we will have to do is seek permission to have this property annexed in as part of our attendance zone. So why don't, go ahead, Mr. Brown, just talk about the timeline of kind of next steps from this point forward.
Sure.
While we're doing the annexation, let's go ahead and get everybody who lives in North Little Rock.
That was surprising me. When I was giving
I'll
the
second
pass-
that. I'll
Mr.
second
Jenkins
that.
wouldn't have any problem
Oh,
with
I was surprised. I didn't know there was a difference between the North Little Rock School District and the North Little Rock City. When I was giving that, I was surprised when I found that out.
Yes. So actually, this property is contiguous with the North Little Rock School District boundaries. The south side of the property is right on the school district boundary line of Pulaski County School District and North Little Rock School District. So if you'll look at the map that I've indicated up here, the bottom side or the taupe colored is North Little Rock School District boundary. The orange colored or peach colored is Pulaski County Special School District. And you'll see that the property shares one side with North Little Rock and 3 sides with Pulaski County Special School District. So the red line that I've sort of hand drawn in there would be what we would ask Pulaski County to agree to a boundary change to allow that piece of property to reside in North Little Rock School District zone. So I've sort of outlined that process here. So some of the contingencies that we have in our contract revolve around the school district boundary change. So Pulaski County Special School District would have to consider that request at their board meeting. You all would have to consider the change. So we would ask Pulaski County to agree to that boundary change. We would ask this board to agree to the boundary change. We would also have to get federal desegregation court approval because Pulaski County Special School District is still under deseg court supervision. I've talked with Mr. Beckett about that. He's talked with the deseg council. There's not any anticipated problem with this, but we still have to go and seek that approval from the federal courts. So once that happens, once this board approves, Pulaski County approves, federal deseg court approves, then we take our case to the state board. The Arkansas State Board of Education makes the final decision on school district boundaries. Normally, when both parties agree, so Pulaski County and North Little Rock, when both parties agree, and if you're under federal desegregation court supervision, if the court agrees, the state board will normally agree without any question about that. And their vote is the final decision on school district boundaries. So that's sort of the process that we have outlined. What we would like to do is have Dr. Paluski sign the contract tomorrow, which has the contingency on all of these things happening. So his signature actually allows us to start having outside contractors do independent assessments of the building, look over all the building systems, HVAC, electrical, things like that. We've taken our staff out to look at it, but we would like to have a firm come in and actually do, just like you would do if you were purchasing a home. And you would have a person come in and do a walk through the building and give you a report of any deficiencies that they may find. We want to have that done, and by executing the contract allows us to start that process. Now, at any point in time, if any of the contingencies do not happen, we're not obligated, because that is a contingency built into the letter of intent, the LOI, and the contract for the property.
Are they obligated? I mean, could they sell?
No.
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 So
once
you
we
take
get a fully
care of that.
executed contract, they're under obligations of the contingencies until we terminate or we say we're going to move forward and go forward.
Do you have any idea how long this will
Dr.
take?
Redis, please. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I jumped in.
Go ahead.
I was just asking if you had any idea how long it would take to complete this process of going through this motion here.
We're hoping to be able to, the final action of state board approval, we've sort of mapped out a process with Mr. Beckett, and we're hoping to get that on the July state board agenda. So we'll obviously attempt to get all of these other contingencies handled prior to July 5th. So in this month of June, we'll try to get all of these handled and be in a position to where we could close if we were able to get these things done, get the review of the property, do the due diligence that we need, and then we'd be in a position to close at any time that we want to on the building.
So to piggyback off of her question, so in the dream world, if everything works accordingly to timeline, it's a possibility by the next school year we could be moving in.
Oh,
Yeah, or early in
Or-
school.
yeah,
Or
early.
before that.
Right, so if
So-
you think July, we're into August, let's get school started. We may have to paint a couple things, but my hope would be September.
Okay.
The first part of the year would be my goal, or recommended goal.
And my second question was, I didn't see what we would do with Ms. Riggins' office.
Correct. So thank you for bringing that up. I was going to bring that up. That is one, her department, and I know Mr. Logan's working with her. She's got a lot of goods and services, and so that certainly will not fit in this space. So we're working on a contingency plan where to relocate our unsheltered program because we know that's a vital support to our community.
That's it. Thank you. Ms. McClure?
You say here that it could house 50 employees, and then there's a list of 3 central office, 12 curriculum, 10 technology, 25 special services. Is that like a real list of the employees that we would be moving in there, or is
Yeah.
that just
No, that's a real list.
that is the real list? So that takes care of people that have been housed at 7th Street.
Yeah.
And now
Right.
have to-
So the priority here is obviously the folks at the annex. So our special education department, which is one of our largest departments, the curriculum department, technology would be there as well. We hope Mr. Logan's office is over there. Student services. Hopefully, we think we've got enough space to put school performance there as well, because those and the curriculum department, those are all essential functions of groups that need to collaborate together. That will also free up some space here in this building in which we can relocate some other. But the priority is for those offices.
And so that would take care of what we need to do right now with.
Yes, that would meet our immediate needs with the exception of Ms. Riggins. That we still have to figure out. Chief Finks is the only other department that over there is safety services. So since we're working on the Octagon building, we would move all of safety services into the Octagon building. So even though Chief and his staff are all at the annex, that wouldn't be enough space to put them out there, but we do have the annex building that they would be able to occupy, which is really centrally located for our safety services anyways.
Okay, tell me that one more time.
So the safety services, so all of Chief Finks and his department, they're at the annex as well. We're currently renovating the Octagon building. Remember, I think I'd mentioned that prior to us looking for another property, we were talking about moving special services in the Octagon because they're the largest. And so now with this space being available, we want them to be able to collaborate and be in that space. But Chief Finks still his staff would need a space as well as we move them out of the annex. So that space would be very well utilized by his staff. And so that would be the plan to, if all this goes into fruition, all of those would go out to the new property. Safety services would move into the Octagon. And then again, we still need to place Ms. Riggins because she has a different space capacity need.
Okay.
Ms. Walker?
Okay, I've got a few. So, not speaking of the new property right now, the new facility is a possibility. Coming back to the annex and Poplar Street, or school, what it was called, would we sell or auction off anything that's available inside, if there's anything there to sell and auction off, in order to recoup the 1.4 offer price?
Yes, we could have and schedule a public sale where we could sell anything that's of value in those buildings.
In the past, we have done that with the previous school buildings that we've closed.
Sure.
So just keeping with the transparency, keeping with the theme that we've done in the past, we'll continue to do that.
Sure.
Okay, so moving forward, perfect world, we purchased the facility. What is the long-term plan for those two said buildings? Would we demolish those buildings? Of course, moving the core first, but said
Yes.
doing that, we would demolish those two buildings?
Correct. If you remember, when all the way back in February, we started to have a conversation about our facilities priorities. We talked about potentially a millage to buy a new middle school. A part of all that was to demolish those two buildings and the police and courts building. And I think way before I got here, there was a conversation about a baseball field there and a softball field, which is a great idea. And if now those buildings are down, then the board can pick that back up with the community on how they want to utilize that space.
The mayor said it's gonna be an aquatic swimming pool in that space.
On what's our property?
Yeah, you know, they were talking about that. Remember that?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that I know he's got that in his long-term plan, but I think we had talked about that as a board. But I think the mayor, with his half-penny tax, wants to build an aquatic center in North Little Rock, but I do not believe he was looking at that space.
Okay. Coming back to Old Main, do we have a plan to renovate that currently, or is that still?
We do. That's part of our long-term vision as well. When we talked about our two largest facility priorities, number one was the middle school. And the second one coming in behind that, although it's not in the biennium yet, but we want it to be. And the vision that we had for it is to move the Center of Excellence out of the Center of Excellence and move that and renovate that space and grow the charter. I believe at the COE, I think there's about 346 students there. The charter allows us to go up to 800, and we believe if we renovate that space, we would be able to grow enrollment. I know something that's the board that has charged me with is how do we look at programs to expand offerings as well, and that move allows the high school to expand opportunities as well. It's another 320 some students that they could have space to enroll more students.
Okay. Should we bring our rain boots tomorrow? if some of these buildings have been flooded, do we need to bring our safety shoes?
No, I think we'll
Bringing a whole hazmat suit, look like.
tiptoe around that.
Can we deny coming back to the police and courts building that we've spoken about demolishing? And I know they still have their items in it. We have not taken over capacity of it, but can we deny that building? Is that possible? Can we just tell the city, no thanks, we don't want that? Because again, we've gone through a different mayor shift, we've gone through a different superintendent shift, so is that something that we can do, or was that in a contract somewhere? Because, coming back to contracts, originally we had this building and maintenance, and we're not gonna get into the weeds, but anyway, could we deny that? Is that possible?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I'll say that we do have 3 executed MOUs with the city. So the city council and the school board have 3 executed MOUs that we have in place. Now the official deed transfer has not taken place. So, that's all I can say about it.
Yeah. Can you bring those MOUs tomorrow? Is that possible, so we can
Sure, we have them. We were
refresh our memory
just
on those?
looking at those, and we're getting this building as well that we need to, that we had talked about. But we want to execute those so the deeds are in the school board's property management portfolio, if you will. Yeah, we can look at those.
Sorry, I apologize. Last question. Did you mention that our current staff has looked at this new facility, or they have not toured the
We've had some of our staff members,
Okay.
Some of the
tour, some of our,
maintenance staff. So when I was referring to that, we took a group out to evaluate the roof. We took electricians out to look
Sure.
at the electrical. We took HVAC out to look at the air conditioning. We took technology out to review drops that are in the building. So groups that
Gotcha.
had a need
Our
that could
experts
help
have been
us
out there.
in the evaluation of the property, we have taken out there.
Okay,
Yes.
so special services haven't been out there and whatever.
no,
Cool. Okay,
not yet, but we thought let's start here first with
definitely.
the board, and then as we'll allow them the opportunity, we'll schedule something where they can do a walkthrough just to kind of see and not put dibs on office space yet. No.
Okay, Dr. Redis,
I'm fine.
Ms. Temple, Ms. West?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say just want to make sure that our staff is happy and safe and don't have mold growing on them.
Question. Only thing you did not explain to the public, we do not have an area like this to have board members meetings.
That's correct.
So would you kind of address that issue?
Yes. So the property does not have a large room that would be conducive to holding board meetings. So, from my understanding, we're continuing to, the central office administration would continue operating at this location.
Yes.
Board meetings would continue to be held at this location. And that would be that would essentially be our new administrative annex location. So it would be administration that is a part of central office, district level, but
Support services
that are located at a satellite office. So that would become the satellite office. But yes, you are right. There's not a room that's conducive to holding board meetings there, so we couldn't move central office there. And so we're operating under central office. Administration will continue at this location. Board meetings would continue at this location. That would be satellite administrative annex services that would continue at that location.
Very good report. I would like to say, because of our concern for staff members, because with the sewage breaking over there, and now we're looking at molds that are being created during the summertime. It's just not feasible for them. It's not. And I hope that as a board, we will make a sound decision to take care of our employees. And whatever you and our good friend who's been working with us 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 15 years, 20 years now, that helped get our schools together and selling property for us. We certainly want to thank you for your input, for helping us. And whatever Dr. Paluski, that he can come up, and Mr. Brown to work with us and knock the price down, that we'll be very grateful, because we do want, I don't want to see our staff going back up in there. No way, Jose. And thank you both. And Dr. Paluski inform the board what we'll have to do, okay?
Yes, ma'am. With that, Madam President, those are our two information items for this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
very
Mr. Brown.
much.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins.
What about the two gentlemen who in the back?
That's Fletcher Head. He's part of me, with me.
Did you all have anything to say? Okay, to give?
Speak now, forever hold your peace.
Okay, we're officially, if there's no further business, we're officially dismissed. And thank you, board members, for a great evening.
Thank you, board members.
Good negotiating.
And thank you for my new contract.
And school is out, and we want to tell all the